Hi guys, it's Mrs. Grimes here to read Nate the Great and the Monster Mess. Chapter 1, Dracula's, Frankenstein's, and Werewolves. My name is Nate the Great. I am a detective. My dog Sludge is a detective too. Today, Sludge and I had big plans to do nothing. Suddenly, I saw something. There was a note under the door of my room. It was written in scribbles. I knew it was from my mother. She scribbles when she's in a hurry. I read it. Dear Nate the Great, I lost my recipe for monster cookies. It is on a long piece of paper. I looked inside the house. Now I must look outside. When I find the paper, I will be back. Love, your mother. I love monster cookies, I said to Sludge. Strawberry Draculas, chocolate Frankenstein, cinnamon werewolves. My mother hates the werewolves, but she bakes them for me anyway. I must find the recipe. I, Nate the Great, had never solved a case for my mother. My mother knew where everything was until now. We will look inside, I said. Perhaps my mother did not look everywhere in the house. I, Nate the Great, liked this case. I could stay home. I would not have to see Rosamond or her 4 cats. I would not have to see Angie's dog, Fang. I could make as many pancakes as I wanted. Chapter 2, The Long and Short of It. Sludge and I went to the kitchen. My mother kept her recipes there. Each short recipe was written on one side of a card. Each long recipe was written on one side of a long piece of paper. The cards were in one pile. The papers were in another. My mother liked the cards. They were all neat and clean. She did not like the papers. They were crinkled, wrinkled, and stained with food. The pile of papers was a mess, and it was huge. But I, Nate the Great, had to look for the monster cookies. The recipe should be easy to find, I said to Sludge. It's the only one with drawings of werewolves, dozens and dozens of werewolves, all crossed out. My mother has never seen a werewolf she likes. I spread every sheet on the floor. I found recipes for foods I had never eaten and would never want to, like squash slosh. I found great names like chocolate bumps and pecan plops. I found scribbled names that I had never heard of, like lim fam. There was nothing listed under that one, and fig fizzle, nothing was listed under that either. There were more pages with scribbled names. Maybe the recipe would be added later. I, Nate the Great, could not find monster cookies. Chapter 3, One Big Mess. It was time to think. I made some pancakes. I gave Sludge a bone. He ate and thought. We ate and thought. I knew that Mother had not made monster cookies for a week. Today she discovered that the recipe was gone. So the recipe might have been missing for a week or less than a week. I turned to Sludge. We will look in every nook and cranny of this house. Look hard. It's for my mother. Sludge and I looked, sniffed, climbed up, bent down, knocked things over, pulled things out, pushed things around. We crumbled, we jumbled stuff, nothing. I, Great the Nate, say, there is a big clue missing in this case. The clue is my mother. We have to find her and ask her questions. Sludge and I walked towards the front door. Ouch! We stumbled over the mess we had made. We will clean it up when we get back, I said. Chapter 4, Tasty and Lemon. We went outside. Think about where my mother would go, I said. Sludge sat down. No, don't sit and think. Walk and think, I said. Suddenly I knew why Sludge had sat down. Fang was up ahead with Annie. I went up to Annie. I'm looking for my mother, I said, or her recipe for monster cookies. Have you seen either one? I saw your mother 3 days ago, Annie said. She said hello. She looked at Fang. She kept staring at him. Then she took a long piece of paper out of her pocketbook and wrote something down. She said that Fang would be tasty and lemon. What did that mean? You wouldn't want to know, I said. Chapter 5, The Best Follow. Sludge and I walked on. Maybe my mother is adding Fang to her list of tasty monsters, I said. I can hardly wait to eat them, but that does not help us find my mother. Sludge turned around. Where are you going? I asked. Sludge led the way to Oliver's house. Oliver lives next door. Oliver is a pest. Oliver follows people. Oliver follows animals. Oliver follows the world. Oliver was in his yard. Oliver, I said, did you follow my mother today? Your mother went out today? Oliver said, oh, pooey, I missed her. Your mother is a great follow. She goes to good places like the fish store. Oliver collects eels. He likes anything fishy. Oliver, I said, did you follow my mother this week? Yes, 3 days ago. It was my favorite follow of the month. Where did she go? Oliver looked proud. He opened a box. He took out a card. I know who I follow and when I follow them and where they go, he said. I have a card for everybody. Let's see. Nate the Great's mother. Thursday, 2 p.m. She spoke to Annie. She looked at Fang. She took a long piece of paper out of her pocketbook. She scribbled something on it. It was probably her grocery list. She went to the supermarket next. She looked at the paper. Then she took a jar of cinnamon from the shelf. She stared at the jar. She put it back. She bought chocolate, strawberries, and lemon. A lemon, I said. Was she really going to make lemon Fang cookies? What happened next? I asked. She went to the fish store, Oliver said. She took more long papers from her pocketbook, looked at them, and bought lots of fish. I said, more long papers. They could not be grocery lists. They must have been receipts at the fish store for fish dishes, at the supermarket for monster cookies. What should she do next? I don't know, Oliver said. I had to go home and feed my eels. I must go to the fish store, I said. I must follow you. Oliver said. I know it, I said. Chapter 6, Something Fishy. Sludge and I walked to the fish store. Oliver followed us. Rosamond and her 4 cats were there. Rosamond was buying tuna. Here, she said to the man behind the counter, is some paper to wrap my tuna in? You wrapped my fish in it 2 months ago, but the other side hasn't been used. Just turn the paper over and use the other side. The paper was stained, rumbled and crumbled, and smelly. The man made a face, but he wrapped the tuna in the paper. I recycle everything, Rosamond said, but fish paper is the best. I, Nate the Great, was disgusted to hear that. I went up to Rosamond. I did not want to do that. Have you seen my mother or her receipt for monster cookies? I asked. Rosamond looked mad. I saw your mother a few minutes ago. She asked me if I had her recipe. Now you are asking me questions. You always ask me questions. From now on, I will charge you for my answers. Rosamond was strange. Now I, Nate the Great, had to be even stranger. Well, from now on, I, Nate the Great, will charge you for my questions, I said. Rosamond shrugged. Okay, no charge, she said. The answer is that I have not seen your mother's recipe, and I don't know where she went after I saw her. For that, you wanted money? I said. Rosamond hugged her tuna package. Well, when I answer your questions, I have to think hard. I have to breathe harder. My toes tingle, my cats get hungry, It was time to leave. Sludge, Oliver, and I went outside. Oliver took out the card and scribbled something on it. It was just the way my mother scribbled her short recipes on her card. Sludge sniffed the card. Was he thinking what I was thinking? Chapter 7, Crossed Out Werewolves. Sludge and I rushed home. We have solved the case, I said. I opened the front door. We tripped. We'll clean it up soon, I said, but first, we have to use our clues. We know that my mother had the recipe when she went to the supermarket 3 days ago. She almost bought cinnamon there, but she didn't. My mother really hates cinnamon werewolves, so she must have decided not to bake them anymore. And that meant she didn't need all those crossed out werewolves. I, Nate the Great, say that without them, the monster cookies recipe was short enough to write on a card. So when my mother got home, she copied the recipe from the piece of paper onto a card. She threw out the paper. Then she forgot that the recipe is now on a card. I went to the pile of cards. I thumbed through them fast. I knew I would find the monster cookies. Sludge wagged his tails. He knew it too. I looked once, I looked twice, I looked 3 times. Sludge stopped wagging. The recipe is not on a card, I said. I should have known that my mother knows what she is looking for. A long piece of paper. I opened the cupboard. There was plenty of cinnamon. My werewolves were safe. We have to keep looking for my mother, I said. Chapter 8, The Right Place. Sludge and I rushed to the door. Thud, bump, thump. We fell down. We will clean up this place soon, I said. Sludge was tired of hearing that. We sat there. It's hard work being a detective, I said. I have to think about what I am looking for and who I am working for. I am working for my mother. I know that she does not lose things. She puts things in the right place. The right place for that recipe was with the other papers. She must have put it there 3 days ago. So why wasn't it there? Sludge didn't know. Neither did I, Nate the Great. What was important in this case? Was it important that my mother had scribbled everything on the long piece of paper after she saw Fang? Was it important that she bought chocolate, strawberries, and lemon, and lots of fish? Fish could not have anything to do with monster cookies. Still, there was a clue at the fish store. I, Nate the Great, felt it in my bones and up my nose. It had something to do with Rosamond's fish paper. Chapter 9, A Scribble Among Scribbles. Get up, I said to Sludge. We have the clues we need. Fish paper and lemon. Sludge and I made our way back to the kitchen. I looked at the papers spread all over the floor. I found the sheet that had Lem Fan scribbled on it. The paper was stained, wrinkled, and crinkled, just like Rosalind's fish paper, because it had already been used on the other side. to make cookies. I turned the paper over. I, Nate the Great, read what I knew I would read. Monster cookies! There it was. How to make strawberry Draculas, chocolate Frankensteins, and cinnamon werewolves. This case is solved, I said. Here is what happened. My mother had some recipes with her when she saw Annie and Fang. She scribbled a note to buy lemon, and on the back of the monster cookies recipe, Lim Fan, short for Lemon Fang Cookies. After she shopped and came home, she put the recipe back on the pile. But because she had scribbled on the back of Monster Cookie Recipe, it was turned down instead of up. The next couple of days, my mother used other recipes from the pile. The pile became very messy. Today, my mother was ready to make the cookies. She went to the pile. She was in a hurry. She thumbed through lots of recipes and scribbles, like Lim Fan. A scribble among scribbles. My mother passed it by, just the way I did. If the paper had been blank, we would have known it was the wrong side. I, Nate the Great, say that in this case, nothing would have been better than something. I heard the front door open. I clutched the monster cookie recipe. I had a big surprise to show my mother. I heard a scream. I was glad that I didn't hear a thud or a bump or a thud. Smudge looked scared. I, Nate the Great, now knew that I had one more surprise from my mother than I wanted. Smudge and I were very busy the rest of the day. Nate the Great and the Monster Mess.